Charlie and Girish dog for many years now, and I've been in many of the sessions, and they're just always inspiring. And so truly, if you do want to attach to the true nature of our peace that's available to everybody, it is everybody, he's the guy. He is the guy. So enjoy yourselves today. He's available to you for questions, and I'm sure he'll tell you in the task how to reach him. And he's also going to prepare a generalized practice that, if you are interested, he'll give you your email, and I'll email it to you. So you'll have a generalized practice that will fit everybody's needs for the week. And then maybe next week, if you come back, you'll report how that practice worked. So you'll actually be walking out of here today with some skills and things to follow and practice. So yeah, so thank you again. And it's all you now, sir.
Thank you, Casey. I'll start answering that question you asked me. The tradition, Eastern wisdom, is about 6,000 years old. And we have 3,000 texts and 3,000 teachers who were born before Buddha was born. And in these 3,000 texts and the teachers, they gave thousands of practices, which you can say mindfulness or meditation or tantra meditation or kundalini meditation. Meditation in general and mindfulness in particular, all are included in that Eastern wisdom tradition. And it has threefold objectives. First, to help you manage your pain. Pain in terms of anxiety, depression, wandering, craziness of the mind, physical challenges. Second is to how to achieve the state of well-being from inside to outside. So once we fulfill these two requirements, means that I am able to manage my pain and I'm living in the state of well-being. Then the third objective comes, how to discover and awaken to my true nature. That is the goal of meditation and or mindfulness. So when you say living in a moment, nobody stops you living in a moment. Does anybody stops you? Do you have a luxury to live in the past? Do you have a luxury to live in the past? Do you have a choice to live in the future? No. Aren't we living in the present? We will talk. So in this session, I'll introduce the principles of the Eastern wisdom on which the mindfulness is based. Why shouldn't I talk about the eightfold path of mindfulness briefly, how it works? And then I will take you to a small practice that I will record, as Casey said, that if you want those practices, so you are practicing every week, every day, before we meet next week. And then you tell me the challenges that you faced in doing that practice. So once you explain to me what are the challenges you faced, or you are enjoying that practice, I will again re-customize that practice in the second week. I'll give you the second practice again as an audio file. What do you think? So it is not one day affair. It's a journey. Mindfulness is a journey. Meditation is a journey. As he said, if I want to achieve self-fulfillment, it's a journey. It's not a destination. Destination leads you to pleasure, and a journey leads you to happiness. Do you understand the difference between pleasure and happiness? Happiness is a continued state. It continues. Yeah? And pleasure is a short-lived. That's why the mind is running after that pleasure again and again and again and again. And that running causes the mind wandering. So as I promised that we will talk about the Eightfold Path, you might be aware of the Eightfold Path. The seventh path is known as the mindfulness. Seventh path is known as the mindfulness. The first is known as the right perception and right knowledge. The second is known as the right intention. Then there is the trio of the right thought, speech, and action. 3 plus 2 is 5. And then the sixth one is known as the right livelihood. And seventh is known as the mindfulness. Is it fair that I talk about these 6 paths to make you understand? Some people jump on to the 7th path, they don't follow the 6th, then they try many teachers, but they never follow all the first 6 paths. Then what happens? So you continue to change your teacher and you fail yourself in mindfulness. Anyhow, do you know onion? Let me compare it with the onion and the Eightfold Path. Onion have different layers. You peel all the layers, what is left in the end? Emptiness. Have you heard about emptiness? In the center there is nothing. In the onion. Right? Yeah? What you do with the first layer of the onion, you peel it and throw it into the garbage, isn't it? It's kind of a reddish and then little red, and ultimately you find the white layers. In the end, there is no layer. There is nothingness. There is nothingness inside. Right? Compare this. The first layer are 2. First layer are the objects of the sense organs and the senses. First layer of the Eightfold Path. Second layer, the sense organ and the mind. How the sense organ and the mind communicates with each other. Third layer is the intellect, mind and the intellect. The fourth layer is the intellect and the ego. The sixth layer, there is no layer. There is no layer. So what happens with our first layer of this onion? How do I look at you? I look at you through my sense organs. Isn't it? My eyes are looking at you. I feel it. You all are sitting here. Right? Clear? Pay attention. It's so simple to understand through this analogy and metaphor. I look at you. I like you. I'm attracted to you. All the job is done by my sense organ. Right? Then I go back home, I start thinking about you. My honey says, "What are you doing?" But I'm attracted towards you. I like you. Sense organs gets attached to the objects of the senses. Do you think that this is one way to understand the mind is constantly wandering? Can you categorize them there where the sense organs are wandering? Where the mind is wandering to the objects? It happens only in 3 categories. Either it wanders in people, it wanders with the places, or it wanders with the objects or the possessions. Right? Why it wanders? Pay attention. We are moving into the second layer. Why it wanders? why it wanders. Can I take your example? Huh? Yeah. So, my sense organ, like you, that sense organ creates an impression in the mind, and the mind starts thinking about you. I'm driving my car, so instead of thinking about my honey, I start thinking about you. So then the mind is constantly thinking about likes and dislikes. From there, the attachment takes birth. Then what happens? How the mind speaks? Our neighbor's honey is better than mine. Neighbor's car is better than mine. What is the first path of the Eightfold Path? Right perception, right knowledge, right understanding. But why it happens, the mind says, neighbor's honey is better than my honey. Why it says? Mind is mechanical. It has become habitual. You don't give a conscious thinking to your mind. So mind says, okay, I have already accumulated lot of impressions of likes and dislikes, so therefore I like others' honey than mine, just for example. Do you understand that part? Did you get it? Oh, you believe so? Oh, that's good. You have to move to the right perception and drop that mind. Did you understand that simple part? Now understand what happens to the likes and dislikes. The default setting of the mind is just likes and dislikes. There is a default setting. I like this room and I don't like this room. But if the mind is mechanical and habitual, then it accumulates that impression. And when you go back to home or you go back to another studio, oh, that studio is still, I like that. We always talk about it. Yeah? The same thing happens with honey also. Oh, look at this guy, he looks very smart, My honey is not as smart as he is. Yeah? It happens. It is going on in your mind. You're thinking. So that is habitual thinking. That is the second layer. So you don't have a right intention, the right knowledge, the right intention. So if you don't have the right knowledge, the right intention, what happens? Your speech, your thought, and your action is also not right. 3 plus 2, the 5 different steps of the Eightfold Noble Path. Let us go together. You are intelligent. We all are intelligent. We understand through our intellect, but the mind is constantly thinking, you see that my honey, my car? No, I don't like it. That honey, that car, that house, I like it. The mind is obsessed with dislikes and dislikes. And then what happens? The intellect. Our intellect says, okay, mind, you are so much obsessed with these likings and dislikes, you are always wandering to those people, so intellect is made corrupt. It cannot take a right decision. And then you try to justify how the other is better than my honey. You have a good car. You have a wonderful spouse, but still the mind is constantly wandering there. The intellect is unable to take the right decision. So intellect is carried away by those impressions of likes and dislikes. Then what happens? Then another layer, the intellect and my ego. The intellect supplies all the impressions of the mind that started its journey in a habitual and mechanical way. And that is our ego. That is I. Everyone has strong likes and dislikes. Everyone has some preferences. Still, we have everything, but the intellect and the mind likes something outside. It is habitual, it is mechanical, so that habitual and the mechanical part of the mind constantly carry me, help me to run after the things and the people and the possessions all the time, even during sleep, so I don't sleep. I stop living in the present moment. The mind is thinking of something else. So once we peel that layer of intellect and ego, what is left? Every master says that is our true nature. In the seventh path of mindfulness, we experience the object-less state of mind. If there is no person including me, we can say the studio is empty, this room is empty. No object. Do you understand? So when all the objects are allowed to leave, what happens? The emptiness. But that is the first step of mindfulness. If you extend that state of mindfulness or emptiness, an awakening takes place. And that awakening leads us to peace, happiness, love, wisdom. Why? Our true nature, our essential nature is of the nature of peace and happiness. You cannot undo peace and happiness in your life. It is already there within us. So why we say to live in the present? Because if you discover that peace and happiness, you simply live into that state. But question is, why I don't live into it? Why the mind becomes habitual and mechanical? Why the mind becomes, am I so serious in talking? Is it okay? Do you understand? Should I make it lighter? No. So I should make it heavier, okay. So understand. Why it becomes, understand that part and take home and contemplate and reflect. Action is a signature of life. As long as life exists, I have to act. Even sleeping is an action. Isn't it? Action is a signature of life. Now, look at the process of evolution. Start with the plants kingdom. Plants have some sensation. They have a life. But they have a sensation. Animals, they have an animal consciousness. Their actions are pre-programmed. Their actions are pre-programmed. Regarding their food, regarding their sleep, they have a season for sex. We don't have any season. It's pre-programmed. Yeah, you see that? It is pre-programmed. Means that it is pure mechanical. It is pure habitual. What about the human race? We are given the reasoning. We are given the intellect. And that mind and the intellect observes. It has a choice. And it can act rightly. Buddha says right perception. Buddha says right intention. Look at it. See that he used the word right before all the eightfold path. Right knowledge, right intention, right speech, right thought, right action. 5, right livelihood. And the 7th path is the right mindfulness. He says right mindfulness. A guy from India, I'm from India, so guy from India wrote me on the Facebook looking at my beard, Namaste, monk. In India there are a lot of mechanical patterns, especially when you see a guy with a long beard and who teaches meditation, he is simply a monk. It is taken for granted. It's more mechanical and habitual. So I just wrote back that you are a greater monk than me. Why? Because you recognized another monk. And now see what he says. No, don't tell me that I'm not a monk, I'm an ordinary person. So I didn't write, are you a fool? The message of right perception is that when I say you, peace is your essential nature. Do you believe in it? No. Are you in anxiety? Yes. Are you in stress? Yes. Are you suffering? Yes. I'm not saying are you suffering with your honey or something. Are you suffering? Yes. But when I say peace is your essential nature, happiness is within you. No, I don't believe it. What should we do with that mind? What should we do with that mind? The masters, all these masters of the Eastern wisdom, they say you have to follow 4 steps. Learn the principle. Learn the principle of the Eastern wisdom. Learn the principles of Eastern psychology. Why? You want to succeed in mindfulness. You want to discover peace and happiness. That is why you see the Eightfold Path. So before that, you learn the principle. How you learn the principle? All our texts are known as, by one word. In Sanskrit, they are known as Shruti. Shruti means hearing, listening. Do you know how to listen? Do you know how to listen? Well, I'm talking, you're listening. Can you confirm that your mind is 100% available to the listening? You're not listening to me.
I'm trying.
Trying, yes.
Yeah, I'm doing, there's no 100%.
Are you responsible for all people here? You are responsible for yours. You see, this is another distraction. I like it. So what happens? The first principle, it says Shruti. Shravanam. You become a good listener. So how you become a good listener? How you become a good listener?
By listening.
You only listen to a teacher at the time of a listening. You don't allow your mind to project what you are listening. The moment you project what you are listening, it is a distorted listening. This guy, look at this beard, with a great beard, he claims that he knows subjects, The mind is thinking. Some of you might be thinking, you have a lot of thoughts. Yeah, see that? So I have to maintain my awareness. The entire journey of mindfulness is to raise your awareness, to evolve to the next level of your awareness until you discover that state of emptiness. Where is the smile, my friend? Am I so serious? First step is listening. Now you are listening to me, 100%. No?
It's not possible. Only mechanical things are 100%.
Yes.
All things. It's
yes.
growing
Yes.
Towards it. Growing towards it.
Yes, so first step is listening again and again and again. So when you listen again and again and learn these principles again and again, the time comes, the mechanical mind stops saying that I'm not listening to you 100%, because that mechanical and habitual mind stops. You definitely listen when the tiger comes in front of you. The mind is 100% available. Now you want to save yourself. You live in that present moment. It is a reflex, it is pre-programmed. So we have to train our mind to listen. Listen. The first step is listening. Second step is that it is not me thinking for you. You have to think over those principles. Take one example. Did I say peace is your essential nature? Do you believe it? How many of you believe it? Yeah, okay, thank you. Whether you believe it or not, that is not a question. We all are same. You believe it or you don't believe it. Where is your experience? That is the greatest blunder happened in the modern age. We don't think. We allow the mind to go mechanical. Okay, you say peace is my essential nature, so let me believe it. The next day I say, oh, this guy is your honey. Will you believe it? So that is why the Master says the second step, that you think. Why you think? You contemplate. You reflect on that principle. Why you reflect on the principle? You remove the doubt of your mind. And the contemplation leads to conviction. We stop thinking. We don't think. Okay, you say you are a monk. You have spent 38 years in teaching. So peace may be your essential nature. But because you have spent 38 years, so I believe it. You know what happened with that belief? What happened with that belief? When the knowledge is converted into a belief, what happens? It destroys you. When understanding becomes dogma and a cult, you are destroyed. You don't get anything. And you are still running after one teacher and the second teacher and the third teacher. Any teacher who says, believe me, don't go to him. Second step is, you should think, how come the peace and happiness is your essential nature? The moment you start thinking, you will find it is the sense organ with the likes and dislikes. By default, mind is constantly thinking, let me peel this layer, let me peel the second layer, let me peel the third layer. Let me drop this idea that nobody is able to put 100% mind. Let me try, let me contemplate. Understanding has been converted into a dogma. The knowledge has been converted into a belief. Then what happens? Belief in dogma. Then what happens? Then my friend Casey says, meet this guy, he's a great guy, he will bless you and you will be enlightened. See that. The journey of the mindfulness is very clear. You need a very clear understanding. Am I clear? That is why I said I'm a pointer. I'm not a teacher. I'm just pointing out what you already have it. Second step. First is learning the principles. Second is contemplation. You start thinking. Have you ever thought that peace is my essential nature? No. Let me go to the class. Let me attend this class of a beard guy. Let me get some peace, and when I will be in stress, I'll come back again. You see habitual movement, mechanical movement. You see that? We don't think. And we don't have a time to think about ourselves. We have a time to think about our neighbors, others' honey is better than mine. Others' car is better than mine. This is why the mind is wandering. And when you contemplate and reflect, what you will find? Don't believe me. You will find that 99% your mind is talking to yourself without any reason. And what is the way? Stop talking to your mind. The moment you stop talking to your mind, you are 100% available. You are listening to me. It's not a big deal. But no, what this beer guy is saying is right. It is wrong. I am saying just listen to the principle. No, you are right. You are wrong. Likes, dislikes. By the way, how many of you like beer guys? We have two only. Oh, three. Yeah. Huh? No, I just wanted to show. The third step is practice, regular practice with the wisdom. And then we will do the practice 2 times. Then we will have question and answer. So like this. So the class is up to 6. Casey? Yeah, 6. So we have enough time. Buddha, I won't say changed, but Buddha accepted 27 masters in his journey to succeed into mindfulness that led him to enlightenment. How many teachers you have it? One part. I'm asking you to think. One guy from India, I gave private lessons to help you manage your anxiety, your depression, your bipolar, and substance abuse and other. That's what I've been doing for 38 years without any medicine. So he told me I have changed 10 teachers. And still I did not succeed into mindfulness. I said, I don't want to fail. Hence, I'm not teaching you. Why? First principle, learning the principle. I'm not ready. My mind is totally obsessed with habitual, mechanical impressions in my mind. How can you go to a teacher? How can you qualify? You have to be ready and qualified. You don't stop thinking. You don't think that peace and happiness is your essential nature. You think anxiety, stress, I'm tired. How many times you say when you return home after work, I'm so happy today. Except if you get a pay raise. I'm happy. Are you serious? Don't be. I don't want to. So you see that? Then the practice comes. So Buddha changed 27 masters or accepted 27 masters. First 26 masters helped him prepare, be ready and qualified for the path of mindfulness. That is why Buddha says mindfulness is an effortless and a natural practice. We forget 26 masters. Why? We are more intelligent than Buddha. Isn't it? Are we? Then another set of argument comes to our mind from the habitual mind. oh, he is Buddha, that's why he got enlightenment. I'm not. What it means? I don't want to think. I don't want to practice. You see that? This is how our mind works. Do you understand that part? Huh? You know, someone's wife, your friend's wife, is definitely more intelligent than yours. So you have a liking for it. Your mind starts thinking of it. You go home. You create a dislike. What is this? Peeling of the layers. We don't think. I'm coming to the third step, is regular practice with wisdom. So when Buddha says mindfulness is an effortless and natural path, I have to be ready, I have to qualify myself, I have to understand the principles, then mindfulness becomes an effortless and natural. Am I clear? I'm not saying what these masters are speaking of it, I'm saying this. Now when you succeed, last thing, and then we will do some practices. I'll have some questions, or better we will do some practice. I'll do very simple practice, so that you follow that practice every day, maybe twice and thrice. So when I give a private lesson, so I tell the person, you have to do this practice 5 times a day. 10 minutes, 12 minutes of practice. Can't you spare 10 minutes and 15 minutes? I can bet you and promise you, when you become aware of your mind, when you stop talking to your mind, you have more than 24 hours in a day. I can bet you. My master said, one student asked my master, how can you, are you crazy? You, all the time you are practicing meditation, I don't have time. So he kept 2 wall clocks on each side. He said, you see the one clock? 24 hours? Yes. Second clock? 24 hours. Same room. In one day I have 48 hours. One day I have 48 hours. When this mind is not at all thinking about others, your mind is empty. But why it is thinking? Because of habit, because of its mechanical, because of default setting. What is that default setting? Because of likes and dislikes. Because you like and dislike, it continues to create a thinking pattern. And the intellect chooses his wife, his husband, his car, her car. Come on. Are you a commission agent of God who is taking care of all the people? Ask your mind. Stop it. And it will stop. We don't say to stop it. We say, after all, I like him. He is not in my life because I am married. I married because of happiness, and now I am divorcing because of happiness. Look at it. How deep the Eastern psychology is and Eastern wisdom. It helps you to understand your whole being. Coming back. Third, regular practice has 5 stages. Is there an elementary science that we teach to our kids, or the kids' mind is an elementary stage, so we teach them a science, which is known as an elementary science? Which one is true? It is not an elementary science. The law of motion remains the same whether you teach to the kindergarten or primary or middle or high school or PhD. The principle remains the same. Right? Am I right? Or am I wrong? I'm asking you to think. Science, principles of the science remains the same, isn't it? It's a reference point, elementary science. It does not mean that, I have completed my elementary science, now let me learn something else. The principle remains the same. Are you clear? Right? So the first lesson is all about engagement, helping to understand our mind, the nature of the mind, and then we will learn how to peel. So the first step is engagement. You have to engage your mind with these principles. We engage our mind with anxiety. I have a lot of stress. When you ask that, do you have stress? Who doesn't have stress? Come on. What is this? What is this? I don't take my mind back to myself. No, after all, who doesn't have stress in this life? So live in stress. So the engagement means you learn the principle. You engage your mind with the principle. Not with your habitual mind, my friend. Are you here with me? Yes, now you're here with me. So once you engage, then you practice. What happens? In the practice, what happens? In the second stage, you start educating the mind. This is the way to discover peace and happiness. Third stage, empowerment. Now what happens? You have learned the practice. That's what I'm saying you. Casey will send you the practice. You do the practice every day. I'm not saying 5 times, but do it in the morning. Do it in the evening. Once you return from your work, or if you are at your home, instead of pressing the remote of a television and continue, find out, remember yourself. Can I do the practice that beer guy told me? Let me do the practice. So you can do the 3 times practice. So 3 times by 6, 18 times practice. What is gap? You have educated the mind to follow a certain path. The third step comes empowerment. So I guide my private clients and students that how to empower your mind. What it means? The mind will go back with the same habit. I have anxiety. And now you have empowered your mind. So your mind remembers, let me do the practice. Throw all the mechanical and all the anxiety out of my system. You have empowered. Still you are progressing into the path of mindfulness. Fourth. What is fourth? Evolution. Now you help your mind to evolve. What is the one factor of evolution? Now your mind doesn't go for likes and dislikes. You see the beauty in everything. When student reacted to a person in front of my master, how ugly that guy is, and my master stared at him. You're not my student. You haven't seen the beauty in that ugliness. The ugliness is the projection of your mind. It is a distorted perception. I look smart? You have to say it. There is no other way. So third is the evolution. So now the mind sees, okay, I like it, that's okay. I appreciate it. I have a perception, and I don't distort my perception through my projection. So what happens? I need not to think. My mind is always clear. Fourth stage. And the fifth stage is the transformation. You succeed in mindfulness in the fifth stage. But you start getting those experiences in the very first stage. This is the journey. You were talking to me about what is your tradition. I have only one tradition. The Eastern wisdom that includes hundreds of lineage and hundreds of tradition. Buddha is one. And if you want to know, 2,000 years ago, 2,000 years before the Buddha was born, there was another master, Kapila, who gave the definition of mindfulness. And Buddha carried it forward. All the teachers followed the same principle. I'm talking of that tradition, which is not defined as a cult or a dogma, which is not defined as a belief. It asks you to take a journey to yourself. That is what Buddha said, know thyself. What we do? Know others except me. Buddha says, know thyself, and our mind says, know everyone except me. So I'll have a stress. Any question? No question. Any question? So let us do one practice while lying down for 10 to 15 minutes is okay? Huh? Normally I give the practice for an hour. But is 15 minutes okay? So we will do the 15 minutes. Please share your experiences. Tell me what happened, what did not happen. I'm ready to accept. Why? I'm not a teacher. But I'll help you solve those problems that comes to your mind. Okay? Good. Let us sit or lie down. Lie down.